welcome back to Toys in the Attic. Today we'll be going over the Monoprice Select Mini 3D printer. A while back I was looking into 3D printers to print out some of my Nerf toys and other assorted projects I have, and I found there were basically two ways to go. You can buy a multiple $1,000 printer already set up in a box that you will probably have to assemble anyway. And those are good. Or you could purchase a rep wrap or one of the other do-it-yourself printers and hope it goes together, and then scratch your head in frustration on how the electronics work and where the wires go, and spend the next 2 years on YouTube trying to get it assembled. Or, not that long ago, Monoprice came out with this wonderful little toy. This retails for around the $200 range, making it very inexpensive to own. It comes pre-assembled, ready to go, with everything you need to start printing the same day you open the box. It comes with, out of the box, the owner's manual, which is handy, and I would recommend keeping it around. There's a lot of good information in it on the settings and how to set up the programs which you will need to run the printer. Comes with a USB cord in order to adapt it directly to a computer if you do not want to run off of a SD card. It comes with an SD card. This SD card that I received with it was 1 gigabyte, which is more than enough for any type of print that you're going to want to do on this machine. Comes with a spool holder, which actually goes right here. It comes with a little bit of sample filament. This amount of filament is not enough to do any real printing. But what it is good for is the initial cleaning out of the oil and dust and the buildup in the head before you actually go to a real print. You get the Allen key. This is for adjusting the bed level and many of the other bolts on the machine. And you get a little scraper, which I have found is fairly useless on this. Couple things you will want to get before you get this printer. You will want a real scraping blade, something that you can actually get under the plastic and pull it up. I prefer the ones with the sharp bevel. This one is nice because it even has a little pointed edge and different shapes to get up under different type of prints. And because I like my toys, it actually has screwdriver tips built into the rear. Go Husky. A small set of pliers. These are needle nose with a cutting bit. These are good for trimming off the filament and cleaning out the little tag ends that can build up over time. Tape. The tape that comes on the bed you will eventually go through. It will rip. It will get wrinkled up. You will have to replace it. There are professional services out there that are available, but they're pretty pricey, but they do work. Or what most people do is they use a painter's tape of some sort. I like the frog tape because it has a cleaner edge. Makes it easier to get the layers of tape close to each other without having to overlap. personal preference. You can use, Scotch blue tape. That's what most people use. And don't forget filament. Filament. All sorts of colors of filament. So let's turn it on and start our print. I'll show you how it works. First thing you need to do before you do anything, before you turn it on or even plug it in, that is to adjust the bed down a little bit. The one thing they warn you have to do is level the bed. And there's great tutorials on YouTube about how to do so. What I recommend is peel the tape away to expose these screws on the four corners. Tighten them down, turn them clockwise, at least one full turn each before you do anything. That will lower the bed well away from the nozzle, which is where you want to start. Then follow the procedures to level the bed. Trust me, it'll make life a lot easier if you do that. After you level the bed, the power plug and the on-off switch are right on the back. On the side, there's a USB port to hook it up to a computer, and then the micro SD card jack, which is what we'll be using. Now, I have already put on some custom G-code for some of the things that I have been working on recently. Two things I'm going to print right now is a filament holder and a filament cleaner. Two things that I got off of Thingiverse, which is a wonderful site for getting interesting things that you can print. We are going to be printing these in blue, simply because I like blue. Always clip off the end so you have a nice clean end. Let's turn it on. There we are. This is a screen. It is not a touch screen. It would be very nice if it was. What you do is you have the outer wheel, which adjusts where your little cursor is. And then you press it to choose a button. I have selected temperature. I press temperature. The temperature of the nozzle is here. Temperature of your bed is here. The Monoprice Mini has a heated bed, which is necessary for using ABS plastic. I mainly use PLA, which does not require a heated bed, but it is nice at times. For PLA, the bed should be at about 50 degrees, where the nozzle should be between 190 and 210. I find that this particular printer prints nicely with this brand of PLA at 205. So we will preheat to 205. and you'll see the temperature rapidly go up. Alright, while that heats up, let's start feeding the PLA. The Monoprice Mini uses a Bowden style extruder, which is nice. In order to feed your line in, you put it in through the little hole and press a spring and mouse it into the vinyl line and keep feeding it in until you feel the resistance of the head. Once you get down all the way and the hot end is hot and you push your line, you should see filaments squirt out the nozzle. So it has, what you see is exactly the case. It has squirted out the nozzle. So we have successful feed. So let's just get our handy dandy pliers and take that away. When you do it the first time, you'll notice that the nozzle has stuff in it. That's why it's important to do this and clear the nozzle out. That is what I got out of it the first time I did it. So, now let's print something. We will go to print, and this will read your SD card. On your SD card, you'll have a couple things on it right out of the box. You'll see Cura. That is the slicer program it comes with. Very simple, very nice, works very well with the Monoprice products. It's an older version, but I've never bothered updating it. It works perfectly fine. You'll see cat.g-code. That is the default print that these come with. It prints a cute little kitty to make sure the whole thing works. I have already loaded up quite a few other models though, and today we will be printing a filament guide for the top and a filament cleaner and oiler. I will show you those as soon as they're done printing. We will press print, and as soon as the head heats up and bed is heated, it should start printing. Let me reposition the camera for a better view of the print. And here we have the final part. As you can see, came out pretty clean, pretty nice. It's still on its raft. Raft did have a little error right there in the corner, but the nice thing about the raft is it recovered it when it made the top plate. Turned out to be a very smooth print. So now we'll apparently go out of focus. There we go. Just crack the raft off of that. Nice and easy. That comes off nice and clean. Now let's see if the hinge works. Yes, it does. And what this is a filament oiler and cleaner. Put 2 little pieces of foam in here. A couple drops of olive oil. And snap this around your filament. And that will keep the filament clean as it feeds into the printer. And there we have the new guide in blue with the previously printed oiler and cleaner. They look good and they're working nicely. So what are my thoughts on the printer? For the money, it really can't be beat. I've had it for maybe 72 hours and I've been printing quite a few little trinkets. Had a rough cut Ford grip, came out quite nice. Using that shortly. This was a long build, a lot of material used, but this is for the demolisher. And it came out great. Just got to peel away the rafting and the infill. The infill comes out very easily on these things. Sometimes you need a pair of pliers. But so far, everything I've asked it to print, it's printed quite well. I've had a couple errors, but those errors were all having to do with the print itself. That being said, if you download a print, if you download a file to print, make sure that it's the right size, make sure that it's not a faulty copy. Otherwise you will come up with a bad print. That's not the machine's fault, that's the input code. That you will learn on your own as it goes. This is the final product here. And as you see, the infill came out quite nice. Pulled right out. And it's ready to go on the side of the toy with little foam darts on it. I don't really have a lot of complaints about it. Its build area is somewhat small. It's a 120 millimeter cube. That's a little over 4.5 inches on each side. For most of the stuff that I'm building, that's plenty of room. All these things, this is not an insignificant part, and this was printed on this printer. There are plenty of printers out there with much larger areas, but they're a lot more expensive. And if you build a printer, you can build a printer for about $200 also, with a much bigger bed area and many more features. But it would require you to know how to build them. As a entry-level item, the Mini Select is it's everything you need to get into the hobby with a minimum amount of effort. It's a high-quality product. It's not made of plastic. It's made of steel. The cheap kits that you get, the rep wraps, they're literally a bunch of pieces of hardware, a couple circuit boards, and the rest of it is 3D printed. And sadly, this little $200 printer is printing higher quality components than I purchased to make a rep wrap. It does everything I want it to do, and it does it well without complaint. Are there flaws? Yeah, there are things. There are things I would change. Little things that we have changed. You can go on the forums. There's a whole community around this printer now. You can get better software for it. People complain about this little turn dial. I even printed one out. I'm going to be putting a larger button on there so I can easier to manipulate the screen with. Some people have complained about the hot end. There are kits you can print out to change it to a different style hot end, which is better and a lot more consistent than a standard end, although I've had no problem with this end. I have found that with the PLA, it's nice to have more air circulating in the room or an external fan to blow on it, but I really have no complaints. Not many machines that are come out as an entry-level machine perform this well. In fact, for small prints, if I were doing it professionally, I would still have a couple of these to knock out the small items and leave the big expensive printers to do the big hard work. Overall, I give this machine an A+. It's one of the few things out there that does exactly what it says it does on the box.